Today we've got guests on Certain Point of View. It's a Certain Point of View spectacular with some of the best of cast members on this episode in our final run for Certain Point of View, and we are talking about Phase 4 and the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Welcome to Certain Point...
English is a second language.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You know
what, we'll just keep that in. Welcome to Certain Point of View. I'm Addy Thomas.
I'm Ben Milton.
Thanks for joining us for one of our final episodes of Certain Point of View. We're in the end game now.
Oh, it never gets old, does it?
It will. It will. It will probably get old right as we're doing our last episode of Certain Point of View.
Based on Case's face, it's already gotten old.
And of course, we are wrapping up Certain Point of View, the Sometimes Star Wars podcast. But it is out of the ashes of this mediocre podcast will rise a much stronger podcast, and that is Serial Killers, our cartoons and serial podcast. So curated cartoons and serial podcast. That's what I need to keep on pitching.
It's curated. That's what makes it unique.
Yeah,
that's the hook that gets people in.
Right. There's going to be a lot of different hooks for us. But anyway, we can spend plenty of... when we get to Serial Killers, you won't actually have to change anything. We're going to be using the same feed. Stay subscribed to Certain Point of View. Keep giving us your reviews. It's going to be Ben and I joining you with different cartoons. And we're even going to be live streaming some of it as well. So all of that, you can keep up to date with all of that on our website, certainpov.com. And while you're there, you can be sure to check out a bunch of other podcasts. In fact, one of our guests today, you can check out one of his podcasts because he had a special moment this weekend. He got to do his own live panel at GeeklyCon out in Ohio. So without any further ado, of course, certainpov.com. Welcome Case Aiken and Matt Storm.
Yay!
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
I like that I got to beg on the internet and you pretty much felt sorry for me. I'm like, yeah, sure, be on the show.
Matt, that is the influence you have when you have the majority of the shows on the network.
Right. I think it was more a majority share influence than anything else.
Yeah, the stockholders got together and said that they couldn't stop the hostile takeover of Matt Storm coming on this show.
Right.
Look, all I'll say is that I joined this network with one show, and then y'all were like, oh, those two other shows? Yeah, let's bring those on, too.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's true.
We have nobody to blame but ourselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, you have a very specific person to blame, and that is me.
Case.
Yeah.
Well, technically, you have one more podcast that's not on the network. It's just, I think we figured that these ones felt a little bit more on brand.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, the interview show can be nerdy, but I think it's kind of diverse enough that it can exist on its own little world. Plus, it's a part of Crash Chords, which was my original brand until my second podcast on that network, which was the first of the two, went on indefinite hiatus. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
It's going to feel really dated in a few months when we finally just roll that over.
Right, exactly.
Case, tell us a little bit, actually, before we get into anything, tell us about how GeeklyCon went.
So most people can probably hear that my voice is pretty shot because I was shouting a lot at this convention. So GeeklyCon is the convention put on by Geekly Inc., which is another podcasting network. They do their big flagship show is called Greetings Adventurers, although it used to be called Drunks and Dragons. And they also did Cast of Thrones, which was one of the first Game of Thrones fan podcasts. So back in the day, they actually got a lot of actors, first couple seasons, a lot of actors really came on that helped them kind of build this rep. And since then, they've a lot of extra shows have grown in really fun ways and have been doing a convention for 5 years now, I want to say. So I tried to go 3 years ago, couldn't. Last year I went and met a bunch of people, including Pat Edwards, who has been on this show and has introduced us to Let's Rewatch, and who have thus had crossovers with our shows as well. And Matt, you've been on Let's Rewatch, and we'll probably be getting Addie and Ben at some point.
Yeah, we've gotten our invites.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
I think we're waiting a little closer to Serial Killers.
Yeah, just say I have something to really plug as opposed to being
it's weird promoting the
come
end
join the death of our show.
Right. Let's all enjoy this funeral together.
Well, it's funny.
We'll be serving snacks.
Shall we go into oblivion together? But yeah, so I did a live panel with Pat Edwards for Another Pass, and we covered the 1985 movie Legend, the Ridley Scott, Tom Cruise, Tim Curry joint. And it went really well. It was a Saturday morning, which I was a little worried about. It was 10 a.m., but we offered coffee, and that actually worked for getting people to come in.
Good to know. Good to know.
We had 24 donuts that were gone by the time the panel was over, which I was like, oh, wow. I'm not even sure we bought enough.
So do you think that means that, because we got a very late slot when we were at BlurredCon, do you think we need to offer energy drinks next time?
Maybe. I mean, so like BlurredCon was our direct example, or like the direct counterpoint, where it's like, okay, so what happened at BlurredCon, and everything different happened at this one. Like, people attended, which was probably the best part.
No, I think it was
helpful.
good. I think it was good nobody attended.
You know what? In this case, I actually agree.
I've already listened to the audio, and you can understand what was said.
Nice.
That's helpful. Yeah.
I had a plan going in.
That also helps.
Smart.
Yeah.
But panel went really well. That episode is going to be going up this week, so really excited for people to hear it. I think we had a lot of good pitches, both from myself and Pat, as well as the audience. So we got good feedback, so that was all really cool. And it was like a really fun convention. Like they play a lot of board games. They have like a big room full of with people bring board games, and they have ones you can like check out if you're attending the convention. So I got to try a lot of fun games. The Geekly Inc. people just recently made a card game called Drinks and Daggers, which is like a card game D&D kind of thing, based on like their own lore from their campaign, which was actually really fun to play and sort of like test out. Like I think they had it for sale there. I don't think you can order it yet online, but it was a lot of fun. I tried a ton of games that were really cool, and people were just really nice and really enthusiastic. Like a lot of people were aspiring podcasters, so it was really fun to talk to them and find out what they've done that they want to expand at, and vice versa, and sort of see the community, because it's a lot of people who are sort of in a similar position to us. They're passionate about doing something outside of their day job and they really want to make it as professional as possible. But it was just a good meeting of a lot of minds, and there was several hundred people there, and I'm worn out because I was hanging out and talking to them, and we stayed up late one night just swapping D&D stories, and we played all these different games where we all were getting really into character, and it was a lot of fun. Just a really good time. I would definitely recommend people to check it out next year.
Awesome, sweet. Well, I'm so glad that we had that we finally had a successful con appearance for the network.
We being the DC branch, because Matt,
let's not get ahead of ourselves,
plenty.
because Reignite was live also at a panel and was quite successful. So let's...
There we go. We turned a corner, guys.
It's just a certain point of view.
Yeah,
right. It's just you guys. You're the problem. That's
right. It's totally the DC branch.
When we mean the DC branch, we mean Benedetti.
Yeah, this is awkward. Yeah. This is our show, guys.
Well, again, we are the major shareholders now.
I'm sure, at this point.
This explains why this show's getting canceled.
Yeah, between Matt and me, we host 6 of the shows on the network of 8, and I do all the artwork for the network.
That's true. You do all the artwork for the network and shows that aren't even on the network, like my new YouTube series, and you did the banner artwork and the new logo redesign for Crash Course. So you're really the big boss, I think, of all of us at this point.
Silently, though. Shh, don't talk too much about that.
I don't think it's very silent. I think we're aware. So let's go ahead and launch into the future of the Marvel Universe. We just have wrapped up the end of Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We had Avengers Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home wrapping up Phase 3. And I don't know if... I mean, I'm sure we could go on for hours still talking about those movies. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that we could talk about with them. But we've already said plenty on an assortment of podcasts.
That is true.
And I'm sure there's plenty of time for us in the future to talk about those on our assortment of podcasts as well. But now we're taking an eye and looking to the future at Phase 4. Marvel has not been at Comic-Con the last couple of years, but they returned this year, Kevin Feige was on stage and announced the upcoming slate for Phase 4 and teased a couple of things for Phase 5 as well. So we're going to go through that. The other thing to know also is that now Endgame has officially passed Avatar as the biggest movie of all time. So,
thank God.
I just want to say I went to see Endgame for the third time last week, so
did your part?
Yeah, I feel like I did my part.
I saw it twice.
I feel like
I haven't seen it the third time yet.
I feel like I deserve a little thanks for putting it over.
Thank you, Addy. Thank you. You're my hero.
Thank you. I'm just glad Avatar's not in that spot anymore.
I know, because it's such an unworthy movie.
Right.
How did that movie make so much money? That's what I don't understand.
It was the re-release, and it's also the tickets are more expensive for 3D, and it was like almost exclusively available in 3D.
3D IMAX. So and it was a spectacle of special effects. Like, that's the only reason people went.
Yeah.
It's a shame. I didn't go see it. I refused.
Yeah. The real metric will be that when Endgame comes out for home purchase, people will actually buy it. Whereas Avatar, everyone was like, no, I wanted to see the 3D in theaters. I'm not buying this thing for...
Exactly.
I'm not buying this to watch it on my iPod.
I'm really into that Na'vi lore and unobtainium.
God.
It did well enough that they're making more.
Well,
yeah, let's see how excited people are for the next 6 Avatar movies that James Cameron's shooting back to back.
I will say, as a Disney fanboy, having visited the parks, going on the Avatar rides at the Animal Kingdom were actually really awesome. And there's a rich world to build from. Like, some of the lore seems pretty cool, but that said,
rich with unobtainium.
yeah, they need to do some fixing if it's gonna last for 6 movies.
Yeah,
and do well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I imagine that's been part of the delays in that series. So.
For sure.
Writing a script this time?
Yeah. God damn, unobtainium.
I know. I can't get past unobtainium either.
Yeah. I mean, no, I get it. It's a script thing. It's a MacGuffin thing, literally.
But it feels like someone forgot to hit find and replace in the script.
Right. Or they were taking a really meta concept, which means that you don't have a rich world, you have a bullshit world.
Right? All right, so let's move into the positive.
This is not the hate on Avatar session, because I've got that.
All my podcasts are hate on Avatar sessions.
That's where we draw the line of no, we don't want to go negative.
Yeah,
unless
it's Avatar.
Yeah. No, I'm excited.
Michael Bay.
I'm excited to talk about this with you guys, because at the convention my internet was shit, and so I was not able to really watch any of the trailers or anything that was dropping. It was mostly through Twitter, which I was mostly on to post stuff about the convention and be oh god, there's more oh god, there's more I can't wait to watch these things when I get home. And then I got home late last night and haven't really had a chance yet, but at work I was secretly watching them, so woo.
Yay.
Well, all right, so let's take a look at Phase 4. So 10 properties or series and movies are going to be part of Phase 4. The first movie that we're going to be getting is Black Widow. Obviously, Black Widow is one of our casualties in Infinity War, or actually, I guess in Endgame, actually. But May 1st, 2020, we're going to get a prequel movie with Black Widow starring Scarlett Johansson. She's going to be joined by David Harbour as Alexei the Red Guardian, Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova, O.T. Fagan-Benley as Mason, and Rachel Weisz as Melina. Kate Shortland will be directing this movie. So, the other thing that's not mentioned in here is that Taskmaster is confirmed as the villain.
Oh, cool.
For this
yeah.
movie.
Oh.
And it is, at least part of it is going to be taking place in Budapest, which has been teased at several points by both Hawkeye and
that disappoints me. I enjoyed the Budapest thing as being the Calvin and Hobbes noodle incident.
One it's always referred to. But
right, yeah,
really.
Exactly. Just keep it a mystery. Have it be a mission.
That's something in your mind.
Yeah, that went really wrong for Hawkeye, and Natasha had a really good time.
Yeah. Do you think this could be the Clone Wars type of thing where it may not deliver quite the way we wanted to?
I mean,
just because it's in Budapest doesn't mean it's going to be that incident.
That's true.
But then why are you setting it in Budapest?
Well, because part of it is taking place in Budapest. We don't know if
she has
all
a
of it
history,
is.
so she has a reason to be there for Hawkeye.
Sure, this is going to be the Calvary episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was fine. It pulled it off well enough.
True.
But I think I would have rather have always just let that be a mystery. And in this case, especially because the character is dead, it was just like a fun thing she had with Hawkeye.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm really excited for a prequel for this character, and I'm looking forward to Taskmaster.
Sure,
I think Taskmaster's going to be fun.
One of my favorite villains, like coolest concepts of powers. As long as they don't do the bullshit, if I speed up the footage, I can copy the power faster. Hack that they had at one point.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the movie because I think it's not only it's going to be all flashback, but not because Black Widow died during Endgame, but most of it I've heard is going to take place, I think, shortly after Civil War. But there is going to be, her childhood and how she got into the Black Widow program and all of that. But I think the majority of it focuses on a more modern time, though not the current present.
I was going to say, because, she's getting older. Like, she's not going to pull off 20.
Does that matter?
No, I'll watch her all day long.
In this modern technology, does that matter?
Right, because they can de-age her.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's expensive.
Or whatever Paul Rudd is taking, she can...
Yeah, right? But yeah, I'm excited about the Taskmaster. I think because Taskmaster's always a villain that, when he pops up in cartoons and TV shows, or most recently I saw him in the Spider-Man game for PS4. Every take is a little different, but it's always really well done and really cool. To see this master of arms kind of just adapt and grow and then defeat and then it just makes for interesting combat scenes in anything he's in. And so I'm interested to see how they do that in the MCU.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm in. What's next?
All right, so the next thing we are getting is continue with sort of an action, spy thriller style storytelling. We're getting a Disney Plus series, and that is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're getting that in the fall of 2020. Of course, that is Anthony Mackie as Falcon, now Captain America, and Sebastian Stan as the Winter Soldier. We've also have confirmed that Daniel Bruhl is going to return as Zemo, and he will be wearing the mask.
Neat.
Thank God. Missing that mask in Civil War was such a weird detail because, he went to an Arctic place. Why not wear a purple ski mask? It would have fit so well. Yeah, I mean, this one I'm still not surprised about because we knew about this as well.
Right.
The slate doesn't really get really interesting until after that point.
Well, and it has a very interesting turn, so I guess we'll just jump right to the next.
Because we all sound really excited about that show.
I am. Well, here's the thing about both of those last two properties. What I think is going to be exciting about it is Civil War had a little bit of this, but Winter Soldier was the last real spy thriller we had in the MCU.
Yeah.
That's it's not necessarily my favorite MCU movie, but I know it is a lot of people's favorite MCU movie, and it's one of, a lot of people hail that as one of the best quality ones. So it is kind of weird that we haven't had another spy thriller, quite like that in the MCU since then, because that was quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Well, and also with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we get so little character development for them in the movies, and they're such rich characters. Every moment we're with the Falcon in Winter Soldier, it's fantastic. There's so much to chew on, but we don't really get a ton of his story. And so and of course with Sebastian Stan's character, we get nothing for him. He gets no development.
We get mysterious looks.
And so to the fact that these characters are going to get to grow together, and they have grown in the movies. In the later in Civil War, the two of them riff really well, and so I'm excited to see a series with them because I think it's a really good fit. And also I'm excited to see Falcon use the shield and become the Captain America version of Falcon. I think it's going to be really neat.
Yeah, I think the only reason I'm not enthusiastic because Winter Soldier for me is fighting for the number one slot in the Marvel Pantheon.
Yeah.
That is, I guess it's two things. We knew about this series already, so I'm not, I haven't seen anything that really blows my mind about what we're getting from it yet. So I'm excited because I like the characters and that's all going to be fun, but I just haven't really seen much that's really sold me on it yet. And also, I'm not clear what the level of production value is going to be for this. And I think this is a good series for, a good property for a series. It's not super intensive in terms of the technical needs like a Thor series would be. And I'm more worried about other stuff for Disney Plus that they've announced, but I just haven't. It hasn't hooked me, but it has the potential to be one of my favorites. I just the announcement of it this is a non-announcement. Like I already knew that this was coming.
Yeah,
like
that's true. Yeah, we'd heard a lot about it. I will say, if the budget for The Mandalorian is any indication of what kind of level of investment they have in Disney Plus, I'm not worried about production value because they put well, Ben, do you remember it was like $1 million per episode or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. It was like right there with Game of Thrones level of production.
Yeah, so that like, I mean, Star Wars, definitely there's plenty of confidence in the brand, despite what some people seem to think. And of course, coming off of Endgame, I think since they're treating the way they've announced these series is they've announced them almost like the way they've announced each movie. So I imagine that they're putting that kind of budget, that kind of money into it, and they clearly can afford it after Endgame. Yeah. And they really want to make sure Disney Plus is a huge success. So it doesn't feel like Marvel and Disney is really cutting corners budget wise on any of these.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. It's just it's not.
And this is a road trip spy series, so it makes sense that they can scale back a little bit on the budget.
It's just not news for me, right?
Right.
So it's overshadowed by other things. Even other properties that they've announced that we already knew about, like Eternals,
which is the next one.
Yeah, like I had heard about, but that I'm more intrigued about, and they had more to give us that we can sink our teeth into.
Yeah. Other than the Zemo reveal, the thing with Eternals, we did get a cast announcement. So we've got Richard Madden as Icarus, Kumail Nanjiani as Kingo, Lauren Ridloff as Makari, Brian Tyree Henry as Phastos, Salma Hayek as Ajak, Leah McHugh as Sprite, Don Lee as Gilgamesh, and Angelina Jolie as Thena. And this will be directed by Chloe Zhao and is in theaters November 6, 2020.
That's a hell of a cast.
Yeah, it's insane. Like the amount of talent in the one cast. And then for me, like the last time there was a Marvel property that I wasn't super familiar with that I knew a few characters from was Guardians of the Galaxy. And that was phenomenal because I had zero expectations. And that's exactly what I'm getting with the Eternals. And honestly, I'll watch anything that Kumail Nanjiani does. I love his comedy. I love his acting. He's phenomenal. And he alone has sold me on the Eternals movie. And the fact that we have that the rest of the cast who's also phenomenal just infinitely sells it for me.
Yeah, it's Kumail and Brian Tyree Henry for me.
Yeah,
because he is awesome. He was in the voice cast for Into the Spider-Verse on Atlanta. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
I am, and there's plenty of other movies he's been in recently that he's been doing a great job in. So I'm excited for Eternals. It's sort of billed as a Gods versus Gods movie. Case, I feel like I need to make sure to hand off to you because I'm getting that stabby look in your eyes.
Oh no, well, because I am excited about the cast, and like the fact that it's that cast is really really reassuring for the property. But I love the Eternals. I think they are fantastic. My one regret is that they're not coming sooner in the Marvel roster.
Can you give us your, and this is really important, this is where it's going to be challenging, can you give us your 20-second pitch on what the Eternals are for people who are not as familiar with it?
Let me start my timer. I got to start a timer. Hold on.
Okay, we're going to start a timer. Okay.
Hold on.
Jack Kirby, that's all I'll say so you don't have to say it.
Timer. 20 seconds. And go.
Okay, so the Eternals are a group of humans who are super advanced because of alien manipulation and became the inspiration for all gods. It's a really cool distillation of the idea that Thor had, but this is actually taken to the full extreme where they are the inspiration, but there is some deviation, and it's all like super science and magic and whatnot. And Thanos was actually a part of that group in the comics, which was also a really fun component.
Done.
Wow.
All right.
Well done.
There you go. High
five. Well done. He did a thing.
The only awkward part about the Eternals in the comics is that they exist in a world that also has like Greek gods. Like the reason Angelina Jolie is called Thena is because there's a long story on that one, but like she's sort of the inspiration for Athena, and Zerus is the leader of them and he is the inspiration for Zeus, sort of. But there's also the Greek god, so it gets really weird in that way. I love them as a property because I love the idea that like you could have these like crazy advanced supermen living amongst us, and there's like all this like cosmic and like Marvel lore that's a part of it, and that's so cool. As far as the cast goes with that, like this is the best cast we've seen since Phase 1. Like when they were getting we're going to get Ed Norton and Robert Downey Jr. to be like the headliners of our superhero movies. Like they haven't done that in a while, where like it's like known people like across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see them backing this. And also, like, friend of all of our podcasts, Scott Thomas, had his takes on recent Infinity Pod. But, like, he posted the GIF on Twitter of the original Batman movie where Bruce Wayne is like, oh, you want to get weird? Let's get weird! Because, like, that's their motto at this point. Like, they're just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks while still giving us the things we really want throughout it.
Yeah, and I love it. I love that they're going weird. I'll have comments on sort of the overall sort of feeling of Phase 4 later on. Okay. But there does seem to be some trends with what they're doing here that I'm really excited about. Sort of like the overall sort of, I guess, shape of what Phase 4 looks to be.
And from what I heard, Eternals is based on the Neil Gaiman story. So considering the current buzz with like Good Omens and whatnot, like I think there's a really strong foundation for how they can play it out and like it hits several groups of fandom that wouldn't normally be into a Marvel movie the same way.
Right.
So that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so moving into the next thing, so, we talked about, obviously, Eternals has big implications for, magic and science. We're going to stick with magic for a little bit, because we're seeing a lot of magic being part of Phase 4, and that is no stranger, well, that is definitely true for this next one, and that is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, and it's going to be releasing February 12, 2021. Simu Liu is going to be starring as Shang-Chi, and we're also Awkwafina is going to be in an undisclosed role, and Tony Leung as the real Mandarin.
Yeah, that's the part that's the craziest, because, again, this one we'd actually heard about, but the fact that it's the Mandarin.
Yeah.
Like the real Mandarin,
right?
I'm disappointed.
Well, there were rumors about that.
Yeah, actually, I am too. But
I mean, we're Iron Man 3 fans. All four of us on this episode. So,
I'm conflicted personally,
Kingsley.
only because I grew up watching the Iron Man cartoon, and like as cheesy as it was, I loved the Mandarin in that cartoon. Like he was just the epitome of villains, like Dr. Doom was at the time. And so, like, when, while I appreciate what Iron Man 3 did, I'm sort of also excited about this because it's going to be some really cool mystic shit that, like, I've wanted to see in the MCU for a long time.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, you just made me realize that this is probably our best chance of getting Fing Fang Foom.
Uh-huh.
That would be really cool.
Because
so dope.
the Mandarin was tied in with him in that cartoon. Also, a lot of times when they go into some of their Asian properties, I'm thinking like Agent of Atlas specifically, like we get some dragons, and who's the most famous dragon in Marvel?
Yeah. That would be cool. I mean, they talked up sort of the kung fu aspect of this movie,
I feel like this is the Iron Fist we should have gotten.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
This is really what this feels like.
And I still want Iron Fist. I just want him paired with Luke Cage. That's all. I don't need.
You just want heroes for hire.
Yeah, I don't need Iron Fist on his own.
No.
It's just the two of them need to be buddy copping it up all over Harlem. So let's move on to the next movie. So we're looking at, well, actually not next movie. So Disney Plus series WandaVision will be the next one, original series starring Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. So they'll be returning as Scarlet Witch and Vision. They will also be co-starring with Teyonah Parris, who is apparently going to be the adult Monica Rambeau, who we were introduced to as a child.
Oh my God, I didn't see that yet. I was just about to ask because like this one has been completely overshadowed by everything else in the conversation, and again, a thing we had heard about. So like I did not know that we were getting adult Monica Rambeau. That's great.
Yeah. I think that because Ben and you and I were talking about, this is the one that seems the most underwhelming of all the series.
Well, the name alone is really
it's weird.
Underwhelming. WandaVision, like you couldn't come up with anything better than that. Like,
yeah, you know what though, And you know what? Let's actually talk about the next movie.
Because WandaVision, like, it just comes off as like a 1960s Disney ride. Like, now in WandaVision.
I heard something, and again,
but sort of like in the 50s.
Yeah. I haven't seen anything related to it with the SDCC stuff aside from being on the picture showing off everything.
And was it Tom King who did the? I don't remember who did the run on Vision and Scarlet Witch. That was fairly recent, where it was like sort of the domestic drama with the two of them.
Wasn't Scarlet Witch? He had created his own wife, patterned after her brains. It's weird.
That's true. I guess whenever you get to anyone who's a spinoff of Ultron, and Jocasta and all that,
I think it was. I read that run. It was great.
I mean, I'm for it because I love those two characters, and the minor amount of domesticated, cool, like fun, lovey-dovey stuff that I'm a sucker for because I'm a mush that we got in Infinity War. It's like I want more of that. But yeah, I think like when they announced the name, I'm like, oh, that must be a placeholder. Guess not.
Yeah, it does feel like that.
Yeah, seeing it in an actual font is actually really weird. Like it doesn't feel like it's real.
Well, even that graphic doesn't like. It's not their greatest.
No.
So.
Oh yeah, but there's far worse. We'll get to that.
That's true.
Okay.
The next one is another Disney Plus series, and we are getting Loki returning. Tom Hiddleston will be returning in the spring of 2021 for another Disney Plus series, and this is confirmed to be the Loki that we see escape with the Tesseract from Avengers Endgame.
So yeah, the Loki that's had growth, that Loki that we all fell in love with, is still dead. But like the fun thing I've seen about this show is the meme that's going around. Like everyone knows the meme graphic design is my passion, but I've seen retweets of that logo from different people just showing that logo and going graphic design is my passion. And I'm like, that's appropriate. I can't be mad.
Yeah, this one is rough. It is so rough.
Yeah. It's not their best, but you know.
Well, I heard the idea behind
I'm excited
it
by
was,
the prospect
like,
of the series.
Lettering from different Loki comics, and they put them together. Like that was the idea behind it, because he's going to be jumping around in time and space. But still, I'm like, eh.
Yeah. So I wonder if he interacts with different Lokis, because then actually that could get really interesting.
Or are we going to get Loki in like the what was that? Quantum Leap. It's going to be Quantum Leap Loki.
I would watch the shit out of that, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I was already sold on the series, so like,
Quantum Leap Loki actually does sound
really does sell it on
me.
another level. Yeah. Continuing though with I think some of the things that I think there's a lot of elements in WandaVision and Loki that I think build to something that I'm really excited about, and that is the next movie, and that is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This is going to be the second Doctor Strange movie. Scott Derrickson is again directing this. Of course, Benedict Cumberbatch is returning. But here's the really cool thing is Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen, is joining this movie. Yeah. And Scott Derrickson also said that this is going to be the first scary MCU movie, and we're expecting it to release May 7th, 2021.
Ooh, scary. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah. I'm excited about it. I've been recently playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which just came out on the Switch, and there's a section of the story where you go to the Dark Realm, and Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange interact a bunch. And I'm sure a ton of this is informed by shit that's coming out, because it's not an accident. But like seeing that dynamic and then hearing about the Multiverse of Madness, I was like, oh, this is going to be actually really cool, because it'll be a lot of magic and mystic stuff.
And what a great title.
It really is.
I love a title with alliteration.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm a sucker for that. So, yeah, this is the one that I'm the most excited about.
Yeah.
It's certainly the most intriguing concept, because, like, I don't think even knowing that they were doing Eternals, I don't think I was really ready to think that they would do something that would probably feature, like, Shuma-Gorath and, like, a lot of, like, Lovecraftian, like, the really crazy stuff from like the Ditko stuff, like getting, like we got a hint of the mindless one in the first one, like the human servants of Dormammu were like slowly turning into them, but we never really saw them as the mindless ones, and this could be a chance to really have those out there and to do, to get all those trippy visuals that we saw as basically like cutscenes in a video game of Doctor Strange before. Because they didn't really have like that much of an impact on the actual story. Now we'll get that in the story. Like we'll actually have to have people like moving around and not just like getting glimpses of the craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun.
I remember Scott Derrickson said he wanted to make the Nightmare Realm a bigger part of the first Doctor Strange, but instead he was thinking to put it to the second movie. So it looks like this is where we're going to get that. I think the thing that excites me is it's really interesting that Scarlet Witch is having a bigger and bigger role, and multiverses and alternate realities seem to be something that's kind of, becoming a little bit more.
It's almost like it's in the house of Mickey.
Yeah. Well, and like we know, like we saw Kevin Feige say at the end of the presentation, if you watched it, like he says, we didn't even have time to talk about the Fantastic Four or the introduction of mutants, and like so. He knows we want to know, and clearly they're thinking about it, and none of this is accidental at this point, I don't think.
For sure.
Oh my God.
Well, he said they already have Phase 5 complete, planned out completely. So before we get to Phase 5, though, we will have What If, and that is going to be on Disney Plus. I'm super excited about this.
I am
animated
scared.
series.
Oh, it's
animated.
Oh,
Yeah.
never mind. Never
Oh,
mind.
even
I hadn't seen
better.
that
This
part.
is going to be the best.
That was literally the thing that was making me terrified. I was like,
no.
how are you going to do like a live action series of What If?
We're getting Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher. And they are having the cast of previous Marvel movies all reprising their roles in these in the What If series.
Okay,
so.
never mind. I'm actually super on board.
So when Mark Ruffalo will be Hulk, we'll have Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. Everyone is going to be reprising their roles.
All right, never mind. I'm super on board with this. I literally drove over here being like, how the fuck are they going to do this thing? Like,
it sounded like they're kind of like repitching, like if this is the way this movie would have gone if this decision was going, as opposed to just creating like random stories necessarily. They're kind of like new takes
using
on
the existing MCU.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just like What If. So
see,
perfect.
What's really interesting about the What If is like there are talks of a Deadpool something, but we don't know what yet, and like. Everyone still loves Hugh Jackman's interpretation of Wolverine. So, like, how cool would it be if they tease some of the things to come by doing what if stories about Deadpool or Wolverine, voiced by Hugh Jackman or Ryan Reynolds, like that kind of thing. They could do that kind of thing very effortlessly in What If.
Yeah, and you can also tie this into Endgame by having it, like, the starting point of the Watcher talking about it is all the realities they created in Endgame by like going back in time and altering things, and that creating like more and more ripples, so we can just sort of like see it like that.
Yep.
Oh man,
so into that show.
Yep. Staying with Disney Plus, we're also getting a Hawkeye series starring Jeremy Renner. Cool thing is, that's coming out fall 2021. The graphic looked very inspired by the Fraction Aha run. No confirmation on Pizza Dog. We haven't heard anything about that. But apparently there might be at least some of the series might include some of Hawkeye's time as Ronin that was in Endgame. But we do have confirmation that Kate Bishop will be introduced, and Hawkeye and Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, Clint, will be training Kate Bishop.
Yeah, which that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Like, heard about this, was actually really excited about it because this is another one that we had, heard leaks of leading up to it. Yeah. I don't know about you. Like, Jeremy Renner, like, I was, like, very much, into, as a character, like, playing Hawkeye and just as an actor, like, up through Endgame. And then in the last, 3 weeks, I feel like he's completely done a nosedive for me because of his weird, music thing with, a Jeremy Renner app and, the weird commercial lines. Like,
I haven't seen any of that.
I haven't seen any of this.
Rachel was talking about it a lot on the Infinity podcast, and it's just like, man, that's a weird pivot. And I don't know if I'm ready for it. Like, I was like, because I was a Jeremy Renner apologist for a while. Like, I was like, no, I think he's
and that was too far for you.
Yeah,
it was I love him being an asshole or talking down to people. That wasn't the straw, but this stuff was.
Yeah,
but goddamn, don't put out an app. That is a bridge too far.
Kind of, yeah.
It is an ego to a new level. Is once you have an app for yourself. Speaking of which, the Addie Thomas app will be out available on the iTunes
I will kill you.
No, it's like the Eddie Murphy rap video.
Don't you dare diss party all the time. I'll come for you.
Yeah, because you won't make it out of this house if I mention it to my wife.
For me, Jeremy Renner is in this weird place because he's actually publicly being kind of a dick in a lot of places and seen to be sexist, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We know that he's imperfect. But, I saw him in the movie Tag, and I thought he was incredibly charming in that. I still see him in tons of stuff, and I kind of fall for him every time. And so I'm excited for a Matt Fraction-influenced TV show, and if he hands it off to Kate Bishop, and Kate Bishop becomes the new Hawkeye in whatever the next incarnation of the Avengers is, I'm kind of okay with that. I like his version of Hawkeye, but I mostly just like Hawkeye, the legacy of Hawkeye, and all of the characters who have been a version of Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited that it, a Kate Bishop version, because I feel like it can go, you kind of get an Alias type show going on with that then. With her learning to become a spy and him as the spy master. I think could be a lot of fun.
Well, I can't wait any longer for the one I'm most excited about, and is the end of Phase 4. This is without a doubt the movie I'm most excited for in this lineup, and that is Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
We're getting November 5th, 2021. Taika Waititi is returning. That is the thing I'm most excited about by far. I'm just excited for more Taika in the MCU. Ragnarok is my absolute favorite Marvel movie. And not only we're getting Chris Hemsworth returning, we're getting Tessa Thompson, and
Where's Padme?
we're getting Natalie Portman.
Yes!
And not only is Tessa Thompson going to be looking for her new queen, we also know that Jane Foster will be Thor.
Yes.
The mighty Thor will be in the MCU, and I am very excited for that. I mean, first of all, more Taika Waititi is always good. Flat out. I want more Korg all the time. I want Korg to have his own Disney Plus series. Like, where is that announcement? I want that. But like, first of all, to bring Natalie Portman back, who felt just unhappy with the role and the movies, and that's why she didn't really want to do them anymore. And it wasn't like a big falling
and nerd
out.
properties in general.
Yeah, and it wasn't a big falling out. It was just she thought her career was going in a different path. She was unhappy with it. She didn't really want to do these kinds of movies anymore. But the fact that Taika was able to bring her back and that she is eager to become the mighty Thor, I think is so awesome and so exciting.
Yeah, me too. I'm totally here for this. I mean, as soon as I heard Portman was in, that's what did it. Like, I was like, I'm already excied for this movie.
Yeah, Thor 4 was always going to be. Thor 4, more Thor.
Yeah. The quest for more Thor is always good.
Oh, man, we could get the Thor core eventually.
Yeah, no, I'm in for this movie. I'm so excited for it. So, it sounds like this is sort of going to be a little bit of a superhero, like a superpowered romantic comedy to a certain extent. So I think that I remember when they were talking about Ragnarok early on, it was the road trip buddy comedy. So I mean,
this does feel like a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Well, the name is Love and Thunder.
Right.
if it's not, there's something really wrong here.
Right. Well, that and they use the absolute greatest font of all time. The Thundercats font is amazing.
Perfect.
That's the best of the titles, the graphics at the very least.
Yes.
Multiverse of Madness is the best title,
for sure.
just alone. But Thor: Love and Thunder, that I'll take that as a mini poster. So
yeah, I'm really curious. Did you guys read the Jason Aaron run?
It is on my list to read.
Yeah,
I've read a couple issues here and there, and I've loved what I've read.
So the only thing that I find strange, thinking about it with like the pairing and the world that we've sort of set up, is that it's an amazing run, and I've seen a lot of like hot takes being like, finally they're like adapting Jason Aaron's run. Except
it's weird when you say finally because it's so recent.
It's so recent, and because like this was a big thing for a long time in like the comics world, but like the first two Thor movies came out before that run started.
Right.
So like the fact that we got any elements and 3 was like kind of impressive.
Right. But this was part of like the Marvel Now reboot, I think, when they introduced like Ironheart.
Yeah, it's in that timeline. It was a little better set up in Thor than in some of the others. But,
yeah, I think so too.
But like the Jason Aaron run in general, though, is so epic. Like it's up there with the Simonson run, and I would argue even more dips into like sort of like the concepts of godhood. Like the Simonson run still embraced this sort of like the Kirby kind of like it's blurring super science with like Beta Ray Bill and like it's like aliens are fighting demons and like all that, which felt very akin to Ragnarok. The Aaron run, like we see lots of actual Vikings interacting with people. We see lots of lots of like legitimate god situations going on. Like we see a pantheon of pantheons that like Thor travels to, and like the stuff with Jane and the stuff with like the War Thor, which we kind of got in Endgame, and like the Thors of different times. Like it's so epic and so serious that the Waititi style worries me if like how they're going to adapt.
Well, so here's the thing. I only know aspects of the Aaron run. I've read issues, especially stuff that like that had a little bit of a crossover with with Gwenpool around that time. I think I read a few issues.
Yeah.
And there's a couple pages that I've read that are like super compelling. I think there was one where she talks to the Thor we've known for so long about, like, why didn't you save my husband and daughter type of thing. Mm-hmm. That was some really cool, thought-provoking stuff. And even the way it ends is really cool. You know, you also have the fact that Jane is struggling with cancer, and every time she turns into Thor.
Yeah,
like,
that's
you
a
have
big
the
part
whole,
of it. It's very epic. Like the story.
Well, she
there.
wipes out the chemo. All
Right,
the chemo.
exactly,
So
yeah.
every time she turns into Thor, she is getting closer and closer to death.
Right.
And I mean, I guess do we care if we spoil the comic run that's ended?
I mean, no, because at this point, if you pick up any modern book,
Yeah.
it's very much up there, like what actually went on with all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
but the way it ends is pretty epic.
Yeah,
in,
I mean-
in who she decides to become. I'll let you.
well, yeah. So she ultimately ultimately the cancer takes her. She dies, and she becomes now like a Valkyrie. Like in like she. The thing is, like in actual Asgardian mythology, like death is kind of an inconvenience. Like it's an ultimate fate for everyone. But like if you die and you're a good person, and if you're able to lift the hammer, you're a good person. You just end up in a place where you train to be a better fighter. So it's like kind of Dragon Ball Z-esque, and she becomes a super warrior to like fight for the living from the realm of the dead. Like it's really cool, and it's like I said, it's really epic and very heavy, but. Like, that's where I'm, like, kind of curious, like, what they're doing.
Well, let's not forget that Ragnarok had a bunch of heavy moments. Like, even though there was a lot, like, all of the moments with Odin were surrounded by comedy, but the very tense moments were still funny. And then, like, the whole tail end when, like, Thor finds his true power in Ragnarok, all of that was very serious and very well weighted and done. And so I have no doubt that Taika can do that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, Boy is also a good example of some of the character work he can do. The other thing is to back up, like, one of my favorite moments in Ragnarok is the scene with Loki and Thor on the elevator when they're having the discussion about, where Thor's kind of resigned to trying to redeem Loki. He's no longer interested in pursuing that like just trying to save him and turn him into a good person at that point. And I think he handles some fantastic character moments. But I also think if you look at Ragnarok as a little bit of, well, there's some influence from the Ragnarok lore, but there's also a little bit of World War Hulk and Planet Hulk in it. Well, not World War, but more Planet Hulk in it. Yeah. There's a little bit of that influence. And those are also a lot more serious than what that take was as well. I think it is Taika Waititi taking these elements as inspiration and then putting his spin and his flair on a story that he finds compelling that is going to be independent of it. It's never true. It's not really an adaptation.
Yeah, well, I was about to say, like, none of them have actually been straight adaptations
of any
like,
MCU movie.
Yeah, so I don't mean to say that like they should do a straight adaptation, like a Sin City style thing,
right?
And I wasn't,
but it's weird that people make that comparison,
right? Exactly. Like, part of it is just weird that this is a very different Thor, like, and it's a very different world, and like Mjolnir is destroyed, so I'm assuming it's going to be reforged for her,
right?
But it's so I guess like I'm curious, and I'm sure he'll come up with a really compelling, interesting story that is a collage of different Thor elements and other like out there stuff. It's just that the Jason Aaron part of that is so specifically heavy and epic without the sort of hook that I'd be looking for to make it funny. And I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah.
The Ragnarok is great. Like it's one of the best. It is one of the best turnarounds for a character. It incorporates like wonderful elements from all over the place in the Thor lore, including stuff like getting up to the Aaron stuff. So I'm sure he'll get a good one out there. It's just I don't know. Like I said, it's a weird run for them to be like so directly referencing.
Yeah, absolutely. So that wraps up Phase 4. We do have a few announcements for Phase 5. Before Feige went off stage, he did bring on stage Mahershala Ali to be the new Blade.
This is so fucking awesome. Like,
right?
Yeah.
And what's really great is I read in an interview today, like, he went to Kevin Feige. Like, he won an Oscar for Green Book and went, hey, so, like, I'm an Oscar Award winner. I want to bring Blade back. Let's make this happen. And Kevin Feige went, yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah.
Which, like, of course he said yes. Like, he's such a great actor.
Why would you? Yeah.
Right? That's why you win an Oscar, so you can do shit like that.
Right. And like, well,
Can have fun.
I had no interest in Green Book because of the kind of movie it was. I've watched Moonlight multiple times, and he, and like, he's so good in that, and pretty much everything he's ever been in. He was great in Luke Cage. Like, anything he touches is gold, and for him to be the new Blade, like, I can see it 100%. I have zero doubts, and I am ready for whatever incarnation Blade is, TV show, movie, whatever it is, I'm ready. Give it to me now.
Yeah. I think they said movie.
Yeah.
I believe
I'm
they
sure
said
it
movie.
is.
But I'm down for this. He's got sort of that weight that that Blade needs, that sort of gravity that you need for that. It's funny though. This will be his third time as a Marvel character since he was in Into the Spider-Verse and in Luke Cage as well.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's really cool about it for me is that he looks like Wesley Snipes.
He does.
Like, it's actually really great in that regard. And, like, Blade is the start of the Marvel Renaissance. It came out before X-Men. It came out before Spider-Man.
Right.
It's the thing that, like, meant that you could make a good Marvel movie. Because who the fuck thought you would make a good Marvel movie out of Blade? Like, it was such a C-list property for Marvel. And then you get Wesley Snipes, and it I can still hear the song from the trailer in my head right now. Like, it's such an iconic movie that then, like, was a springboard for, like, they're the licensed out productions, but that created, like, the brand, like, the brand awareness and, like, the desire to, like, see these kind of movies that allowed Iron Man to be made in the first place. Like, and so to bring the character back, and I feel like they're taking it seriously, shows that they really care about the history that brought them to this point.
Yeah. And also, like, I need Wesley Snipes in a cameo somewhere in that movie. Whether he plays, like, Blade's dad or another vampire, or I don't care who. But he better be in there.
Well, apparently he was having pretty regular meetings with Marvel as well at one point. So
He's got a lot of time on his hands.
right. So the other thing is, Feige also mentioned, while he doesn't have time to go into details, because now there isn't confirmation that these are all Phase 5. Some of these could still potentially be Phase 4, depending on the timelines for all of it. But we are getting Black Panther 2, we're getting Captain Marvel 2, we're getting Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and we are getting the Fantastic Four, and we're getting the X-Men.
Yes. Well, yes to the first, not as much yes to the second.
Well, but I don't think they're
why.
all part of Phase 5. I mean, he clearly mentioned Fantastic Four, but he just mentioned mutants. He didn't mention X-Men, and I think...
That's true.
And what's exciting to me about him doing that is it shows that he knows also that we need to slowly approach that, and that like, it's not just, here's the X-Men, and I like the idea that we may get, like, some of these things teased throughout. In fact, I know we'll get some of these teased throughout Phase 4, but, like, I don't care how they tease Fantastic Four, but either in the Shang-Chi or Multiverse of Madness, like, we're going to see something that has to do with the Fantastic Four somewhere in there.
Yeah. I think so too. Here's the other thing is, so he didn't say this on stage, but in an interview afterwards, Feige did mention that yes, there will be another Avengers movie. There are going to be faces we haven't seen yet and faces we've already seen in movies already that will be part of that new Avengers lineup. Awesome. But that Avengers movie is not going to be in Phase 4. It will be in Phase 5.
Of course. That makes sense.
So we are... Exactly, and I like that a lot. I love that they're not having Phase 4 build up directly to a big... At least right now, it doesn't feel like they're building up to a big event movie.
God.
It feels like Phase 4 is kind of exist on its own. In the same way that after every Avengers movie, they kind of slowed down with... And kind of gone for, a little bit more low-key of a movie.
Well, I mean... Sort of, I mean, like, it was kind of like the Avengers was always the capstone to it, and then with Phase 2 on, they had an epilogue.
Right, but I mean, the follow up was always like either an Ant-Man
story.
movie for after Avengers 2, and after Infinity War you had Ant-Man and the Wasp. After Avengers you had Iron Man 3, and after Civil War you had Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Yeah.
So all of those have been a little bit more of the fun, lower stakes movies. So I think that's helped a lot, and it feels like in a lot of ways Phase 4 overall is a little bit not necessarily lower stakes, but it does seem like we're taking the time to look at all our different pieces, focus in on who they are, rather than necessarily going straight for big crossover events.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's fascinating is the multiverse and magic is such a big part of this. I almost feel convinced that Kang is going to be the villain for that Avengers movie.
That's the first thing I mentioned after Endgame was over. I was like, if they bring Kang the Conqueror in, I'll be like, sure, why not? At this point, we've freaking seen everything. Like, why the hell not? Yeah. I would buy it in a heartbeat.
And it feels like the perfect way for whatever event happens in that Avengers movie to create Fantastic Four, Doctor Doom BRTs, the mutants can be introduced with whatever sort of multiverse type event happens in that movie.
Fuck, you know what that means? So in that scenario, that Avengers movie that they ultimately get to is Avengers Forever.
Yeah, essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't hate.
That's true.
But I love, and we've all talked about this on various podcasts. I was so satisfied at the end of Endgame. Like, I didn't want more. I was happy with how that ended, and I was happy to settle in it. But now having seen Far From Home and that mid-credits scene, which I love and can't stop talking about, and then the post-credits scene, I'm not even that... Like, my brain isn't going a mile a minute. I just accepted it and went, oh, this is going to be more stuff. But I'm not theorizing because I'm just still riding that satisfaction.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing, just to add to the Phase 4 slate, probably Spider-Man 3 will end up being part of that.
I mean, they may push it to Phase 5 just because we've had a lot of Spider-Man stuff, but who knows? Because we also don't know what Sony's other plans are with Venom 2 and Morbius. We know is coming out.
That's true.
You know, and that stuff.
Here's the one thing. So apparently, Marvel Studios did not want Far From Home to come out when it did. They wanted to push it. They wanted to push it forward, so we didn't have those trailers where we found out, Peter Parker's back and all of that, and then we essentially spoiled his return. Right. Not that we ever thought that he was gone.
There was a Spider-Man movie coming back. We were pretty sure he was coming back. Like, I don't know why that's a big deal.
Yeah. Right. I guess for lay people.
Yeah, I mean, they could have changed it.
As soon as you go, it's a Spider-Man movie. Well, I guess he comes back.
Well, I mean, but that was because Sony was pushing it. Like, that's what I'd heard, is like they wanted their movie to come out.
Exactly. So I have a feeling Sony will probably make their third Spider-Man movie happen in Phase 4
sooner than later.
Yeah, I think so.
Makes sense. I mean,
are they done with it? Are they done with that property then? Do they have to give it back?
So Tom Holland has one more movie as Spider-Man so far in his contract, but that could mean anything at this point. And there's no rule saying that he won't resign either.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure they'll re-sign him.
Yeah,
like it's
back up a truck full of money and just say take what you need.
Well, when you make a movie about him taking up the legacy of Tony Stark, it kind of seems weird to say, you know what, guys, we're just gonna do one more movie with you,
kill him off,
right away.
Look, you say that jokingly, but we know the Prowler exists in the live action universe as well. There's going to be a Miles Morales in the live action at some point. Like, I know it's going to happen.
It's true,
and
and we're going to get Kamala Khan,
and like they've already said, like Spider-Verse is going to have a Spider-Gwen movie and another proper sequel to Spider-Verse, among other things. So they could really go anywhere with it.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, Tom Holland was supposed to have a cameo in Spider-Verse, but it got shelved just because the timing didn't work out.
Yeah. I'm just going to do a quick plug because also coming out of SDCC, even though it wasn't news, I do want to give a plug out to Sam Wilson from Let's Rewatch. She did a crazy Spider-Gwen.
Oh, yes.
Cosplay.
Awesome.
Yeah. I just saw the pictures. It was like dead on.
Yeah.
So shout out to a friend.
Yay!
That's awesome. Well, so what any other? Well, I guess we don't spend too much time doing predictions a lot of the time. But what are your guys' thoughts about what has been announced so far? Like, any feelings, any trends, any what really jumps out to you?
I guess for me, it's weird because, like I said before, I'm so satisfied with where I am now. I'm the least speculative I've been in a long time. That said, I'm also getting more excited about Marvel properties outside of the movies because there's a union again, for better or worse, with the monopoly. Like with Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Yuri, who's the voice of Spider-Man and Spider-Man for PS4, is also the voice of Spider-Man in the new Marvel Ultimate Alliance game, and so like that kind of synergy is really exciting. That maybe the game universes will be connected, and they'll make other Marvel games like Spider-Man. I just think it's a really cool. The whole Marvel universe as a whole is in a really cool place. And I don't really think I have any speculation for Phase 4, just because I'm at a place where I'm just happy to have it wash over me, I think.
I think that probably the one thing that is going to continue to happen throughout the next couple phases is anytime DC makes any kind of announcement, a week later Marvel will make a bigger announcement.
That's true.
That is guaranteed.
I mean, that is...
It's the way of the universe. Yeah. When that power dynamic shifts, it's time to hang up the microphone, boy. Hang up the headphones. Call it a day.
I would be happy to see it like jockey back and forth.
Yeah.
Like, like a kid back in the day wondering, like, should I get a Sega Genesis or a Super Nintendo?
Super Nintendo.
That game came out. Ultimately, yes. But in like 1991 or 2, like it wasn't quite as obvious.
True.
It'd be like, oh, Sonic came out. Oh shit, that game's pretty cool. Oh wait, the Super Nintendo has Street Fighter 2 and Genesis doesn't. Oh, Genesis has Blood from Mortal Kombat. You know, it was like back and forth in terms of like what was the hottest thing. I would love that for the comics. Right now, it feels safe. Like it wasn't really that much announced. Where they announced something, it was really it is very exciting. But as a whole, I'm not looking at this whole. It's not like at the end of Phase 1 where all of a sudden it was like, all right, so here's Phase 2, and we're like, holy shit, they're doing Age of Ultron, they're doing Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, so here's the thing, though. Can we ever go back to that time?
No, I don't think so.
Because
I don't think so either.
But I'm not even saying I want them to go back to that time because of this era. If this is, in fact, a restarting of the sort of Marvel momentum, because we just went through the big actors and we've finished up the arcs that started with Phase 1, and pretty much all of them are done at this point. Mm-hmm. Then now it's like, okay, cool. Like we need to like figure out what the audiences really respond to. Like I'm really looking forward to a lot of these things. Who knows? Like maybe Shang-Chi crushes it and becomes like the next Guardians of the Galaxy, the next surprise hit. And they like shift gears to like sort of emphasize that. Like that's cool. Like, but this is definitely like the first phase of a chess game. Like this, it's the opposite end of Endgame.
Yeah,
like,
we're starting over.
Yeah,
it feels that way.
Like Phase 3 was all about like, all right, there's a lot of pieces out there. How do we get them together again?
Right.
To get to the point where they could all be like where you could have Thor standing on the Guardian's ship, like because you didn't see how they were going to do that necessarily as of Age of Ultron. But here we have to actually put the pieces out there and see what things we want to go with. Yeah.
The one thing I wonder right now. So there's two things that make me speculate a little bit. At one point, there was rumored that there potentially could be a Rocket and Groot series on Disney Plus. I do think a lot of that is probably tied up in whatever is happening with Guardians 3, since Suicide Squad is going to happen first. And whenever that's done is when we get James Gunn back. Thank God we're getting James Gunn back on Guardians 3. But of course, that does mean that's going to take time. But originally, that was going to be the, I guess, first, maybe second movie coming out of Endgame. So it'll be interesting that because of now sort of like this behind-the-scenes drama, what implications does that have for Guardians 3 and how it fits?
Story.
And fits into the overall picture. I'll be interested. Like that's one of those things that when we talk about Star Wars and how the behind-the-scenes drama affected the storytelling, I'll be very interested to see what that has done to that story. I think the core of the story will be ultimately unaffected, but I think there's definitely trappings like adding Thor to the mix after the success of Ragnarok. I think that was probably added a lot earlier and probably already a part of it, but now with Gunn being back and also the implications for like Gamora and the relationship with the rest of the Guardians. But now, like, what other developments will we have in the MCU by the time James Gunn is ready to return to this, and how does that integrate and replay into it? So, I think there's a lot of moving pieces, and it's one of those things that I'd be very interested to be able to one day go and see. Like, okay, this was the draft before we got to, before he got fired and then brought back, and then at different stages. It'd be really kind of interesting to kind of study, because that's one of those things that I'm always fascinated by.
Well, and the timeline is really weird, right? Because we know that Thor is going off with the Guardians. That's how Endgame ends, and they've also announced that Beta Ray Bill is going to be in Guardians 3. Like, they've said that. So how is that going to...
Have they?
I thought that was confirmed.
That's news to me.
No, I think that's still... Yeah, I think that's still up in the air. I think that's still a rumor.
Well...
That would be awesome. I would be totally in for that.
If I got a picture of what the design was for that character, I think I'd
right?
Like...
Well, his face is on the tower in Ragnarok.
Yes. They've had the references.
They did that, and Feige is kind... I thought again, now we're in rumor territory. I thought I heard Feige say something that it's not likely, but it's anything is possible. But right now, we don't have plans for him. But who knows? Like, that could just be him, doing PR until we're ready for it. But I'd be down for that. I think he makes sense in that group. It'd be so much fun.
Probably makes more sense than Thor, frankly, in that group. But
but it looks like the perfect place to hand off.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, yes. Oh Christ.
Right?
But it's just I'm curious,
how,
because there's going to be time that passes over the next 2 years between Endgame and then wherever Thor ends up with the Guardians. I'm just curious how that progression of time will affect that movie that was originally going to be so much closer to Endgame.
Right, and I also wonder how is Thor: Love and Thunder going to affect that too?
Right,
because obviously we got to have.
Do they have release dates for Love and Thunder?
Yes, that is. I think I said November 2021.
2021, yeah, so late 2021.
It's the last movie in the current state of Phase 4. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they indicated that Natalie Portman was going to be wielding Mjolnir. I'm not.
But Hemsworth's going to be in the movie too.
Yeah, but how much is he going to be in the movie?
Right.
Question. If it's about Mjolnir and it's not about Stormbreaker, then we probably are really dealing with stuff that's on Earth, because that's where Mjolnir was destroyed. So it might be a scenario of we need someone to fill in the void of Thor on Earth specifically.
Well, he's gone.
Yeah. So that makes me think that it's not going to be very Hemsworth focused at all.
And Asgard is on Earth as well.
Yeah.
So right where they destroyed Mjolnir as well.
So, I mean, I'm curious what they do with it. But I just honestly think that ultimately Thor's role is going to be small, and that it's going to be mostly Guardians of the Galaxy. Because my understanding was it wasn't really slowed down that much by the gun stuff. My understanding was that they kind of kept it quiet because they were sort of trying to position him back, but they were trying to keep the pace going. They were very locked into that script, which means they probably could start with some of the CGI stuff early on before they had cemented who the next director was. And I mean, this could just be mindless speculation, but I feel like that
I imagine though, if it was that locked in, I have a hard time imagining Gunn was going to move on to Suicide Squad though.
I don't know. I mean,
because they got
who knows what they agreed behind the closed door.
That's true.
They could have just said, "This is all bullshit. This is what we'll do. We'll send you over to do, we'll do a movie somewhere, get somebody to hire you for a movie, and then we'll bring you back after."
That's true.
After this blows over.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That's the most likely.
That's kind of how
scenario.
I took it. I mean, especially if it's far enough out, then he could theoretically have started pre-production for both, and only gone into directing one. He could have figured out his schedule where it's all right, well, there's going to be a few things anyway.
I mean, we still don't have a release date for Suicide Squad yet, so it's hard to know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to end up being that impacted by his
You're probably right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking.
Yeah.
What I like about this, about what we've seen so far, though, is the heavy emphasis on the magic side and the mystic side, because it's definitely a void that's been missing.
Well, the crazy side in general, because the Eternals is not magic. It's very explicitly science being taken for magic, and that I think is really cool. Because it's not just like it's not terrestrial. Like that's the crazy part about it. Like it's how far out there can we go, because superhero movies offer the opportunity to do this kind of like sci-fi fantasy element that a lot of movies don't, or it would have to spend a lot more time explaining. So you can kind of like bypass the whole need to be like, well, it turns out that there's a multiple quantum reality. You know, like you'd have to spend half the movie just to get to the starting point before you could tell the story. And now we can actually, I mean, we've done that. Like Thor 1 did that, and then Guardians of the Galaxy started setting up the sci-fi, and you know they've eased into it, and now we can finally be on that far level kind of stuff that really requires a foundation and makes it very hard to do in a movie.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at a point that's really interesting because now Marvel controls all Marvel on the big screen now, except for the Hulk in a solo movie is literally the only property they haven't gotten back to some degree.
Well, they would have the same deal that they would with Sony.
Well, right, but they don't.
That one.
Lionsgate still owns all solo rights. He can only appear in other movies with other characters.
In other people's movies. Yeah.
So, but barring that, Marvel controls the rest of what Marvel looks like on the big screen finally. So the next, 2 to 4 to 5, 6 years is going to be completely different from the previous decade because they have more control than they've ever had before. And I'm really excited about that.
So when we do get to Fantastic Four and we do get to X-Men, we get a true Marvel take on those characters.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we can deal with. Yeah, you don't have to try to normalize the Fantastic Four. You can really go weird. With them
for sure.
Yeah.
At that point, yep. I think that's what's really cool about the possibilities for that is you can really let them be who they are, and we can get something past what we've normally dealt with with mutants in the Fox movies.
We can finally get away from Phoenix.
Yes, thank God, please.
Well, yeah, I imagine we will.
Or you can actually do it well. Yeah,
do it well and tell a long story.
Because they've skipped the Shi'ar every time. Yeah. This is getting into that, you need to lay the foundation. Yeah. They skip the Shi'ar every time.
Well, with Captain Marvel, now that we're starting to see what
they can actually do
the
that.
actual pick.
Right, you could actually have the Shi'ar and people wouldn't be like, what, there's fucking bird humans?
Actually,
what?
There's only still one anomaly left, and that's Deadpool. We know there's a third Deadpool coming. We know that Ryan Reynolds has been working on it, but that's all we know. We have no idea how it fits into the MCU. We know that it will somehow, but we don't know how.
Yeah, we've heard rumors that they might introduce him in the next Spider-Man movie. Yeah, and then also potentially on Disney+.
I would love to see
that,
though.
It'd be great.
Right? I don't want him in the next Spider-Man movie, though, especially for what... I mean...
I do.
I mean, I do, but
that
I don't.
Be amazing.
But based on the tease that they did from the last Spider-Man movie, I'm not sure how I feel about that one.
I mean, that's fair.
With him on the run and with J. Jonah Jameson, and
I love that.
If Kraven is the rumored villain, might be the rumored villain,
it would only be a cameo in that scenario, but. I don't know. Deadpool is such a outside of continuity character.
That's true.
Right.
His X-Men don't look like the X-Men from the other movies. We just get we have one shot that's a direct nod, but X-Men at that point had already had such weird timeline stuff going on.
Yeah, they were already in Terminator territory.
It was completely irrelevant, and I don't think if the next movie all of a sudden they're just in the MCU, and
there's no problem with it.
And they don't. Yeah, I think it just doesn't skip a beat, and you just oh well, they always were, I guess. Even if there's new X-Men by that point, I think it's just it's this movie's version of the X-Men, because even Deadpool 2's X-Men didn't look like Deadpool 1's, in part because they didn't have access to the actors. But
if they keep the same tone and the same style of writing and stuff like that, they're gonna fuck with it. They're gonna tell you oh, whatever,
Well, they're gonna clearly have to tone it down some, because if it's under they
said that
maybe
it's going to be able to continue to be a rated R movie. They've said that.
That's true. And the question is, how much will they let that connection stay with the MCU?
Well, right. I mean, my guess is that Deadpool 3 is still going to continue to be its own thing that nods at the existing continuity. Just now, he can nod at all of it and not just X-Men.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was so meta with discussions of Hugh Jackman and stuff like that. It didn't matter. It was just whatever was popular that they could legally make fun of.
Right? And while I get that Hugh Jackman's done with Wolverine, and I respect that, I loved Logan, to have Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in an Avengers movie would be my ultimate dream come true.
Yeah.
I don't know that it will ever happen.
It's just
but,
not
like,
going to
I
happen.
want
It's
it.
just
Well,
not gonna.
you do it with Avengers Forever, and he's an old Logan from a Days of Future Past style timeline.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like that. I mean, that's how you do it. Like if they are
I'd
building
be
to time
fine if
travel.
Hugh Jackman doesn't have to go on his crazy diet and work out. If that's the thing that's holding him back, like let him loose.
Oh shit! They could do Earth X with fat
Where he's
Wolverine.
like out of shape.
Let's not
Don't even
rush
put
into
makeup
another
on him.
plus-size version of a hero. We didn't handle Thor perfectly. I'm not ready for them to do the next one yet.
Well, he doesn't have to be plus size. I'm just saying he doesn't have to go on the superhero
fair.
diet.
Yeah,
you know?
it could just be
He's still
bod
still
Logan.
It could
acting.
be dad bod
you know,
Wolverine, yeah.
Yeah.
right. So, yeah, I mean, I'd be down for that.
Speaking of bodies, I meant to talk about this when we were still on Thor. What do you think they're going to do with Natalie Portman? Because I was thinking.
So the joke she made on stage was that this is her before picture before she's getting jacked. So apparently she's going to work out quite a bit.
I mean, okay, so that's cool, but like she's still tiny as a person.
I think they're still going to if they're going to have her work out, she's going to be playing it in the armor and everything.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I don't think they're
Just
going to
give
have
her a
someone
smaller
else.
hammer.
Well, I'm wondering,
This isn't that hard.
I'm wondering if they're going to like digitally increase her size because
Oh.
like Natalie, like
I thought you were thinking like have someone else play.
Well,
her
yeah,
as
I
Thor.
was wondering
Yeah.
if that was a possibility. I didn't really think they would do that directly, but I am wondering.
Or Gina Carone.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean,
Wow, Natalie.
because we don't have that as a concept in this universe as Thor. Because like
Right.
in the comics, Donald Blake is a very different human being
Right.
to what Thor looks like. It's but in the movies, they just were like, you know what? He's stripped of his powers, but he's still the same
yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So they don't have that like transformation component to the character. But I still feel like they're going to have to make her look bigger in some way. Not just like get buff, but like actually be bigger.
Yeah.
Because like that's just what Asgardian gods are, unless they're like making a joke of it.
Well,
I don't think they'll make a joke of it. I don't think they'll address
Yeah.
it.
yeah, I kind of think they're going to leave it as is because I mean,
Well, because like Jane Foster's Thor is much bigger than she is
right,
in that
in
form.
the
And if-
comics.
And if they go with the cancer concept, which they might, like
Right.
then you're going to expect at least some sort of like. I mean, so maybe they do like the Steve Rogers style, like withering effect on her. But like, I wonder if
She's
they would do-
already crazy thin.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like even if she gets like again, she's just very small.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering for the character if they're going to digitally make her bigger, which I am fine with. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
about it.
I mean, considering most of those fights and all that stuff is CGI at this point anyway. Once we get crazy lightning and like it's I mean, it's still Chris Helmsworth as far as I know on the battlefield, but in small spurts at this point.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's what I'm wondering about.
Yeah,
I don't think so because there's no because of what we've already seen with Thor. Like so when we lost his powers, he physically didn't change anything. Having the hammer and wielding it as Thor doesn't physically change him. Why would it change?
Right,
James?
because it didn't change Steve Rogers
Yeah.
either, who wielded it.
Right.
Right.
So
Yeah.
no, I don't think it'll change. him.
That was sort of my thought to that because I remember like thinking about because I thought briefly about whether or not she would at least like have the instant armor change once she gets the hammer because they did that once, but it was more of like an illusion that was cast off for Thor in Ragnarok when Hela first pops out of her prison.
No, they've done it 3 times because they did actually do it in both Thor 1 and 2.
Yep.
Oh, did they? I don't remember that.
Well,
for some
pardon me,
reason.
Thor 1 and Avengers. So in Thor
Oh,
1,
right.
when he
I remember
first gets the
Avengers
hammer
now.
back, he is encased in his armor after it had been. It was ripped from him at the same point when he was turned mortal,
Right.
And it came back around him when he was revived by holding the hammer,
Right.
And then in Avengers, when he first shows up, he's in the bare arms look,
Yeah.
and when he goes to travel to New York, that
He
he like
gets
raises
the
the hammer up and
right.
like the lightning strikes him in the full
Sleeves,
armor.
yeah. That's right. You're right. All right. Yeah. So, because as a consequence, I was thinking about why didn't we get Steve Rogers in Asgardian armor just for that moment?
Well, because he traditionally hasn't worn it.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
and it'd be a weird look. It's Captain America. You gotta kind of own the look anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely make it work. Like,
they've done it before.
Winged helmets and stuff with a character who already has a winged helmet is like not that big of a stretch. They've got the same color scheme. Like everything's pretty well and fine. You just make it like a little more chainmail-y and like
right.
It would actually work pretty well, but.
We've gone off the deep end.
Well, that's not another pass this. You're another pass on Endgame is purely revolving around giving Steve Rogers Asgardian armor.
It's the only thing I would change.
Well, I think we've said all we can really say at the moment for this upcoming slate of Marvel
and then
movies,
some, I'd say.
Yeah, if we're just doing Marvel. Do you guys want to talk about anything else that came out this weekend? Like, I'm having trouble keeping track of what was SDCC and other stuff. Like, there was the Picard trailer. There was Cats,
all of that was mostly SDCC.
Cats.
Yeah, and then there was the Crisis on Infinite Earths for DC, where they've been announcing
DC TV.
a ton of actors coming back. Tom Welling is coming back. Brandon Routh is playing Superman again. Burt Ward,
Linda Carter.
Linda Carter, yeah.
Although Linda Carter has already been back in Supergirl.
Yeah, but she's going to be Wonder Woman. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't hear that confirmed, so that's cool.
No, yeah, that's really crazy. I don't know. I fell off the show, of the shows a couple seasons ago, and like I want to watch them again. Like I really do, still in my heart, love those shows, but I just couldn't keep up with all of it. I think at some point I'll watch the crossovers and then maybe go back and watch the rest. And it's a shame because some of them were still really good. I couldn't keep up.
Yeah, it was too many because I'm in the same boat as you. I think I may have left a little later, like maybe a year or two ago, but I just couldn't do any more Arrow. Even Flash really went off the rails for me. I think really I kind of only really enjoyed
Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, Legends of Tomorrow and
Black
Lightning
was great.
Yeah, and Black Lightning isn't connected to the other ones. So, I mean, and I liked a lot of Supergirl. I actually really did. And some of the new developments for Supergirl have me really interested. Every time I hear a little bit of news, although I'm hearing Flash is really starting to fall apart, like even people are wanting off the show at this point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's crazy.
And this is the final season for Arrow, isn't it?
Yeah. I thought this past one was the final season. It's the next season, though.
Okay.
Yeah. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s next season is going to be the last season, but I haven't watched any of this season yet. I'm just kind of behind on a lot of those shows right now.
Well, it's the wealth of options. Like
Ghost Rider.
All of these would have been things that we were just crazy for,
right?
20 years ago.
Everything aside to watch them.
Because like Tom Welling being in this made me like think about Smallville. And I'm like, God, remember when Smallville was like somehow doing all the things we wanted superhero mediums to do? When like they had like the like little Justice League like team up at one point, and it's like oh my God, we're finally getting it on some kind of screen. Like imagine these things then, like without like all the Marvel movies and all like all the access to everything that we have all the time right now.
Yeah,
it would
totally.
be so incredible.
Yeah, we're suffering from a wealth of riches. Too many riches. It's just so good.
When we have a good Shazam movie like that,
that's incredible.
Right?
What is that?
Yeah.
And a pretty fun Aquaman movie too.
I
enjoyed it.
It's crazy.
It's so funny seeing that with Case and the two of us enjoying it so much, and poor Carter
hated it.
Did not enjoy it at all. And I get it because it wasn't a good movie by any stretch, but I still enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah. It was still crazy.
No, we were driving back from the movie theater, and we're like both gushing about it, and like she'd been silent since we walked out, and she's like, "What are you guys talking about? This movie was terrible."
I mean, categorically, it really is, even from the first, like from the beginning. Yeah. But I mean, I enjoyed Jango Fett as his dad. So
I mean, I love that.
You know,
there's a lot of fun elements.
Yeah.
Hold on, let's move on from superheroes though. Like the Picard trailer has a lot of crazy like stuff. Like, and I know I'm the Star Trek person, but so like it's two big things that are coming for it, and then a third one which is kind of a stealth thing. So the two big things are Brent Spiner is coming back as Data,
right?
Or I guess he's technically B4, but with like Data's program loaded into him. And then Jerry Ryan is coming back as 7 of 9.
Right.
And apparently she's going to be a lot less Borg, which is great because that's the character arc she was going through, and it would have felt like she was stagnant from like the end of Voyager to now if she still was like that. So it's really intriguing for both of them. And then also apparently there's like kind of another main character besides Picard. Like there's this like girl who might be sort of like a Borg infiltrator kind of thing. or some kind of super soldier. It looks kind of crazy, and I'm intrigued. It almost feels like Firefly.
Yeah, it has shades of that. And also, it's confirmed that we are getting Riker and Diana Troy as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious. I was never a huge Next Generation fan, and I know that Star Trek people will look down on me for that. But it's good. It's very good. It's very good. It wasn't my favorite.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of on this. I'll watch it for sure. I'll probably take my mom. My mom is a massive Star Trek fan, and so I'll probably take her to see this one.
It's going to be a show.
It's a TV show.
It's a show, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, snap.
Or rather, CBS.
Like Discovery.
You got to
pay.
Yeah, but it's like $5.
Watch it.
It's like $5.
I mean, you can just use my subscription.
Seriously.
You can use Case's subscription.
Not a big
I
deal.
just don't like that.
Sharing is
Yeah,
great.
I don't know. I was cranky about it too.
Also
and then
illegal,
I started
which we
watching,
won't do.
I was cranky about it too, and then I started watching Discovery. We just finished the first season, and we're 2 episodes in the second season. Me and my spouse, and it's phenomenal. Like around every corner, when I thought they were going left, they weave right, and I'm like, oh my god, that was amazing. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is that we should cover the show for serial killers, and then you're set.
Speaking of serial killers, actually one of the other non-Marvel pieces of news that I'm excited about. I'm pretty sure of the 4 of us, I'm the only one who's watching the new DuckTales.
I haven't been able to
some
yet.
episodes.
I want to though.
I love it.
I really enjoy it. I haven't been able to watch a ton, but I've seen a couple episodes, and it's so fun.
It's so fun. They've already introduced Darkwing Duck in the series as sort of a Batman 66 TV show. They did like a dark gritty reboot of it too. The most recent episode, and it was fantastic. It was such a great critique of modern movies.
They have references to the NES games in there. Like there's a moon episode where you better believe the moon
so good.
shows up. Like,
it was so good. But like it's also got great like building of the lore. Don Carnage has been in it as well. We haven't had Baloo show up yet, but we did get the announcement that Chippendale Rescue Rangers are going to be showing up on the next season. I'm so excited for that.
I want them to be hiding under boxes and throwing apples at things.
Because the Darkwing Duck and Rescue Rangers were my 2 favorites of that block. But I'm sure it won't be long before Goof Troop shows up, and they're building out that afternoon
if
Disney afternoon
Don
block.
Carnage, like Tailspin, Tailspin is one we probably should do for serial killers.
Yeah. For sure.
Because
that was
it
one
has
of my
such
favorites.
a weird aesthetic, like this 1930s kind of like film noir kind of element to it all, or with this like high stakes piloting, like it's very pulpy and cool, and I didn't really take it in sufficiently then, because it was such a. I think it was like too mature of a concept for me as like a little kid to like fully appreciate like the film references going on with this adaptation of the Jungle Book.
With a question mark. There's a big adaptation of the Jungle Book?
Yeah,
with all the characters,
it's such a weird show. It's such a weird show.
Well, it's funny, like talking about those Disney cartoons, like there's a Disney MCU essentially for all those old cartoons. Like Gargoyles was part of that time as well. Like there's so many stuff that they can reference, and like Jordan Peele has been adamant about wanting to adapt Gargoyles to the big screen and stuff.
Yeah,
I'm so excited when I saw he was like really.
And
like,
so like
for that.
I'm curious to see if DuckTales builds that out further, because there have been rumors about them spinning off a full Darkwing Duck cartoon from this new one for ages now, and like I would love to see all of that come to life, because what I've watched of the new DuckTales I absolutely love. Plus, I'll watch David Tennant do anything at this point.
Yeah, that cast is fantastic, and I love that they give distinct personalities to all of them. So. It's been fantastic. The three
three caballeros,
not the Three Amigos. Yes, thank you. They had an episode as well. I mean, they've been pulling from all over, and it's been awesome. So that's the other universe I'm excited about, and we'll sure to be it'll take some time, but we will definitely be doing some stuff from the new DuckTales and some of the classic stuff, DuckTales, and some of those afternoon cartoons on serial killers. So, you guys got anything else, or we're wrapping up this?
Another season of Archer.
Oh, that's right. And it'll be back to a spy show.
Yes. Archer wakes up.
Yep.
I'm excited about that.
I'm like 3 seasons behind on that. I was like such an avid fan, and then after
It gets bad.
Noir was where
Same.
I fell
I
off.
fell off on Noir also. I liked that season, but like I just couldn't keep up after that.
Yeah, like, I think that's also when I like kind of cut the cord, and so like it wasn't just a matter of being on my DVR.
Right. You had to go look for it.
Yeah.
The new season's pretty good.
Yeah, the episodes I've seen are fantastic for this
Yeah.
season. I mean, in a sense, I really like the idea of them spinning off into space, and I would almost like these creators to just do a space show in a way. Like, I think that like that is something they could really run with. But one season for Archer is also fantastic too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the little bit I've seen is fantastic.
It's good.
So.
It's good. I'm glad they're doing another.
There
season.
was one other big cartoon announcement at San Diego Comic-Con. They officially released a trailer for the Steven Universe movie and a list of all of the musicians who are going to be involved, and it's like a who's who of modern musicians. It's going to be a musical, and it looks really awesome. The animation looks incredible, and I'm excited for it.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. I feel like I really want to listen to you and Rachel talk about that component, because you two would know the music and the Steven Universe material, and like I would really appreciate like the shared enthusiasm between.
Oh, we will.
That's
tuned.
on my list to watch. I
Yeah.
just haven't gotten
It's
to it
phenomenal.
yet.
It takes some getting. You have to get into it. The early episodes are very silly and very strange, but it's a great cartoon. One of my favorites besides Gravity Falls. But yes, Case, I can promise you when that movie comes out, we will talk plenty about it on one of my many podcasts.
Oh yeah, I just figured like I could try to prod you to get into the next Screen Snark.
Sure.
All right, well,
yeah.
I think we're going to wrap that up now. So thank you guys for joining us on Certain Point of View as we're in the wrap up for the show. Of course, you can follow you can actually join the discussion with us on any number of things on Discord. You can find the link for that on our website, certainpov.com. It's always fun there. We've got lots of conversations going on in Real Movie News and Reviews. We've got plenty of activity happening over on Reignite. Screen Snark's got some stuff going on. Another Pass, obviously, recently has had quite a lot going. And, of course, you can... Well, I'm sure there are more podcasts to come to a Certain Point of View in the future. So, again, you can join all of that conversation on our website, certainpov.com. And until next time, stay scruffy, my Nerf herders.